Today I'm going to talk about another Western from 1972 in my series of films from 1972. This is the third of the six Westerns. And this is Jeremiah Johnson starring Robert Redford as a mountain man. It's directed by Sidney Pollack, screenplay written by John Milius. And it was a very successful, this was a hit movie. I think it was the fifth most grossing film that was released in 1972, which surprises me because 72 is often considered not the heyday of Westerns, but I'm finding as I'm going through these six Westerns, boy, there were some good Westerns made in 1972, in particular Jeremiah Johnson, who, as I say, is a mountain man, and we see him at the beginning of the movie. He's getting off a barge in the middle of the Rocky Mountains somewhere and determined to become a mountain man. We see his pants are soldier's pants. We get the feeling that he's perhaps escaping from the army. And it was a time of dropping out. This film was released in 72, but it was made in 1970, and still at the height of the Vietnam War protests, and so we were escaping the war, but even in a larger context, just dropping out, that something is sick in civilization, and we have to get away from people, get away from cities, go up into the mountains. But he's a neophyte, so he has to learn his trade, and it's very funny as he tries to accomplish how to catch a fish and how to start a fire, and then he runs into another mountain man, Bear Claw, and he is played by Will Geer, Grandpa Walton from the long-running TV series The Waltons. So he takes him under his wing. Of course, mountain men are really eccentric in every which way. But it's very funny. There's another funny scene with a bear. And then as it's time for Robert Redford to go out, Jeremiah Johnson to go out and find his own space of solitude, he runs into another mountain man played by Stefan Garash, and that was a name I didn't know, but he was fairly recognizable from a tremendous amount of television series that he appeared in throughout the second half of the 20th century, a character called Delgu, and he's absolutely hilarious. I mean, this is a mountain man. He does all the unexpected things, gets Jeremiah Johnson into a great deal of trouble. So even though Jeremiah is seeking solitude, peacefulness, away from everybody, he keeps getting drawn back into people, even a makeshift family. And no matter how high you go up in the mountains, you're still gonna find things that draw you back into other people. And he finds contentment with the family. You know, it's a different kind of contentment than being by yourself. And the scenery this is all filmed in Utah. It's just magnificent scenery. I mean, just absolutely fantastic. And much of it was filmed near Sundance, and Robert Redford was already living in Sundance in 1970. So he was close to home. And you really get the feel of Redford's love of nature in this film, because he just the wonder of nature comes through in the magnificent Rocky Mountains. But it was a low-budget movie. The studio wanted to film it on the back lot back in California. No way, said director Sidney Pollack, we're not doing that. Well, they said, you can go in the mountains, but you're only going to get this much money to spend. And there was no trails. They filmed a lot of it in wintertime, in January. So they had to work with a small crew. A lot of these scenes were just one take. They had to get it. For instance, Robert Redford is trying to catch a fish with his bare hands in freezing cold water, a stream. And he couldn't, and he actually falls down into the stream. They couldn't do multiple takes of scenes like that. And when the fear amongst the studio and amongst the people who made the film was, is this a strong enough story? Is there enough story here? It's episodic. So a lot of it was edited. They edited it for almost 2 years. And then when Sidney Pollack was finally satisfied with it, it actually played in competition at the Cannes Film Festival in 1972. And I mentioned the screenwriter John Milius, who also wrote the screenplay for The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean, my previous video. And again, he had problems with the director. He actually got fired, and then Edward Anhalt came to write some of it, but he didn't get the dialogue well, and Milius was getting the dialogue well, so they brought him back again. And this is, I think, one of Milius's finest screenplays. I mean, Milius is always attracted to these mythological men, but this was a real life man. Jeremiah Johnson actually existed, and many of the incidents that are portrayed in the movie actually happened, including his ongoing war with the Crows. It's not just other mountain men and remnants of civilization that keep intruding on Jeremiah Johnson. It's also the Indians, and different tribes of Indians. And the Flatheads was where he gets his wife. The Flatheads were Christianized by French missionaries, and they spoke French. And this is true to life as well. And there's lots of violence in the movie. You know, it's not there's action in this movie, but Pollack wanted to shoot it where it wouldn't be gory, and this was all done in the editing. You can like compare this movie with The Revenant, where you have just, you know, super gore, and Pollack thought it was more effective if he de-emphasizes the gore and concentrates more on the psychological horror of these battles, which is really well done. This is one of Sidney Pollack's best directed films, and it was a very, very personal project for Pollack. And I know all this because Sidney Pollack provides the commentary. And he's really, really good in talking about it. And amongst this commentary is Robert Redford, not as much as with Pollack, and also John Milius. And Milius and Sidney Pollack became good friends later on, but this was a struggle. This was not an easy film to make by any definition. But overall, I mean, Jeremiah Johnson is a Robert Redford. I mean, the movies weren't sold as concepts like they are today. They were sold with movie stars still in the 1970s, and Robert Redford was a great movie star. He's still with us. Like I say, you get his feeling, his love for nature. You get a feeling there isn't a whole lot of dialogue in this movie. What there is good, and we got to attribute that to John Milius. But Redford, you know, can express so much mood in his expressions, and great comic timing. Redford is really an underrated actor, especially when it comes to his ability to elicit comic reactions to his characters and and thereby endearing him with the audience. And again, so this is Redford. This is the Rocky Mountains. Delgu describes the Rocky Mountains as the Rockies are the marrow of the earth. And this was a line that John Milius got from one of his the books that he researched on the mountain. That Milius went to high school in Colorado, and he said that him and all of his friends, they wanted to be mountain men. When they graduated from high school, they wanted to become mountain men. And I'll give you what actually happens to Jeremiah Johnson, which the film does not. There's no coda to it, but he does come down out of the mountains. Now he is in an ongoing war with the Crow Nation. I mean, he can't escape it. They send one brave after another brave to try to kill him. Jeremiah becomes known as Big Medicine, so it was like a rite of passage to who's going to be able to kill Jeremiah Johnson. But eventually he does in real life. The real life Jeremiah Johnson comes out of the mountains and becomes a school teacher in San Diego. I think it's Sidney Pollack tells us the story in the commentary. And it's hard to imagine, you know, this man and all the travails that he faces as trying to find solitude, living in a big city, teaching school children. And when he died, he was buried there, but he was remembered by mountain men as a legendary figure. So eventually, they did pay for him to be interred back in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, which is really appropriate for him for sure. So another real good Western here, Jeremiah Johnson from 1972. All right, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Next up will be Bad Company with Jeff Bridges, another good Western from 1972. You guys take care.